Hello and welcome to In the Loop podcast, episode number 7 in a series of podcasts bringing you information about Microsoft products and services, new technology, and some great top tips from the team. Today's topic is all about Microsoft business products in retail. And welcome everyone to In the Loop.
All right, mate. How's
Hi,
things?
Joe. Yeah, good. I see.
We're giving it a go, aren't
again. We are indeed. I love it.
It's been a while,
So,
hasn't it? We've been off for a couple of weeks. We've had a very busy digital period where everyone was kind of flat out doing other projects. So we put it on hold, on ice for a little bit, but we're back now.
I love the digital stuff. Talking of digital, I love your countdown timer. You did well, except I don't know whether you know, but snow goes down; it doesn't go up.
We didn't make that. That's actually built into the platform.
I know it is. I am joking, and it's no good for our listeners because they won't see it at all. But or unless they do the rewatch after.
We are doing this, so to let everyone know, if you're listening to this on our usual podcast platforms, we are actually going live as well on YouTube and Facebook on All Things Microsoft on YouTube and Expert Zone Facebook in the UK and in Ireland. So they're both going live now as well. So
So I see you're in your office. I love your office. I'm in my shed quarters.
Shed quarters looks
where
good.
A lot of things happen in shed quarters. In fact, my little series, I don't know whether anybody follows me on Instagram, like they follow you. You see you got your name up, not your Instagram tag. So whilst you're changing that, I'm going to talk about... so you may have already seen that we're up to Windows W on the A to Z of Windows. And I haven't quite caught up yet on the podcast, but we're getting there. There we go. At xbox.custom, and mine's Nigel_oldgeek. So what have you been up to, Joe?
Not a lot. Week 5 of lockdown in Ireland. Lockdown 2. I know you guys are only a couple of weeks into yours, but over here we have 5. They're letting us out to play next week.
Are they? So
yes.
So we're coming out on 2nd, I think, December, but with new restrictions, I think, in the different categories or tiers that they have.
Yeah, we're going to say we're on level 5, which is lockdown. And we're coming out into level 3 after 6 weeks.
Right.
It's been very long.
We've been the whole of November, I think, by the time we come out. Yeah. But I think there's restrictions coming in so that everyone can visit everyone at Christmas. So that'll be interesting to see.
Nigel, before we get into today's podcast, anyone who is watching live, we have our usual question of our favorite Microsoft or your favorite tech product. If you want to stick it in the chat, and we will go through them and call them out later on as we get through the podcast.
That'd be great, yeah.
So if you've already named your favorite piece in previous podcasts, what's your favorite current bit of tech? Now, it can be Microsoft or otherwise, but let us know.
Have you bought any new tech recently? I know you bought, the last thing I think we talked about was your robotic Hoover.
Love it.
Vacuum cleaner.
Still love it. It's fantastic. Yeah, I've changed my Wi-Fi. I'm having issues getting it connected to the new Wi-Fi because it's the app from it is a third-party Asian app that I don't fully understand. I'm trying to figure it out. Figured it the first time, can't figure it out now, but it still works. I just press a button that goes off and does its thing.
I didn't realize it was connected to interwebs.
Oh yeah, I can do it from anywhere. I can the app on my phone and be in the supermarket and just press clean the house and it goes off and cleans the house.
Fantastic.
So yeah, it's great. Anything recently I bought that was cool. I've stopped trying to buy stuff because I spent too much money on stuff in the last lockdown. Nothing recently.
I've saved a lot on coffees and lunches and things. I have to say, so I should save up that. Save up my pennies for something else.
What have you been up to?
What have I been up to?
What have you been up to?
Lots really. I've been. We're doing a charity ride actually at the moment for a charity called Calm. Campaign Against Living Miserably. I'm going to advertise it on here. So as a team, there's 4 of us in our team. We've got to do 500 miles in the month of November. But as a team across Microsoft, we've got 3 other teams ranging from 10 in a team to 5 or 6 in a team, and everyone's doing 500 miles, either walking, running, or swimming, or cycling. And I'm doing the cycling. So I've hit my target, which was 250 miles. For the month, so I've got a few more nights of cycling in shed quarters because it's pretty dark and cold. So I've been using lots of technology to capture all that and reporting back using PowerPoint and Excel and all those kind of good things. So yeah, that's Thank you for asking me.
No, I never do, and I always feel
It's
guilty
only,
afterwards.
it's only taken 17 episodes. I
Hey,
know.
we got there. That's what's important, isn't
But
it?
we do have a guest today,
We
and
do.
I'm pleased we have a guest. I when you said the name, I thought, oh, I wonder, because you mentioned his surname, and I thought, oh, mate, he's a really good swimmer. And then you said, no, it's not that person. And then you said his first name, and I went, oh, great! I've watched The Long Way Round. It'll be fantastic to be talking about motorcycling across the world, and it wasn't him either. But we do have a combination of those two names. We do have from the field team, our Microsoft field team, a gentleman by the name of Euan Wilke.
There he is.
Hello.
Hey,
Hello.
how you doing? Welcome.
I'm not too bad. It's uncharacteristically grim and wet day in Scotland right now. I know that's shocking to hear. Yeah, it's unprecedented.
It's the same. Considering Ireland and Scotland are like this to each other, like top and tail. The weather's identical.
I'm glad you brought the subjects of the weather, because we didn't actually discuss it, and we all talk about the weather. It's a beautiful, clear blue sky here down in the south of England. So, Euan, welcome to In the Loop podcast. Glad you could make it. Where exactly, if you were to pinpoint you on Bing Maps, because obviously we all use Bing Maps, whereabouts are you in Scotland? Because it's a flipping long country. It's bigger than people think.
Yeah, it's a weird thing that you don't quite see, just because sometimes the way sort of the perspective of maps is, but the landmass of Scotland is almost as big as the entire England as well, and you don't really expect that. But I'm in the central belt, so I'm in a town called Dumbarton, which is right underneath Loch Lomond. So if you were coming out from Glasgow Airport and you wanted to drive to Loch Lomond, you would have to drive through Dumbarton.
Over the bridge.
So over just after the Erskine Bridge, turn left, you'll get there in 5 minutes.
Been there.
I know I've said twice, but I lived very briefly in Erskine.
I went to high school in Erskine, so this is a weird connection there.
Yeah, there was an ex-girlfriend of mine was from Scotland when I was much younger, and I tried to move over there, and I rented an apartment off her stepdad, and it was in Erskine.
Fantastic.
It's a nice wee town, Erskine. It's a lovely wee place.
I spent a lot of time between Erskine and Renfrew, but Renfrew's a different type of area if you're Irish.
A different kind of town is probably the best way of putting that.
If you're Irish, it's probably not the best place to be, but I ended up there. So, but yeah.
Oh,
it's another place. I love Scotland. I always enjoyed going over Scotland. I love Glasgow. Haven't been to Edinburgh that much, but I've actually always liked Glasgow. Spent a lot of time in the city centre there. Not only with my own personal stuff, but we did regular meetups in Glasgow. So we spent a lot of time over there. I always enjoyed the very long drive from Glasgow to Manchester.
Yeah, I've had to do that one a few too many times as well. So.
It is beautiful though. If you go off the end of the M74, I think it is, up through what's it called? Bigger? Is it Bigger up through there? Up to that winding road to get to Edinburgh. That's a beautiful ride up through there. Really nice.
No, I mean, I probably have the most scenic travel route of anyone in the field team in general. Especially when I was, obviously we're not visiting places right now. We've just went into our first week of a second lockdown.
Right.
Close the border with England, so you're barred, Nigel. You're not allowed.
Oh,
you need to stay in your shed. But
just make a note of that.
Before I was Dundee, sort of the furthest north that I was visiting.
Right.
And because of where I live in Dumbarton, instead of going through Glasgow and going through all the motorways, it's actually much faster for me to take the back roads and go up via Stirling, which is a really, really, really nice looking area. So lots of dramatic scenery on my way to go teach people about Microsoft.
If the guys obviously don't know you out there, or some of you do, because obviously you're part of a team, but maybe you could explain to our listeners or viewers exactly what you do, Euan. That would be a really useful insight into.
Yeah, so I'm now the last of the sort of Scottish only team, I guess you could say. I'm a territory manager in the field team, which is kind of a fancy way of saying that I used to visit stores on a regular basis, train the staff in person, sort out merchandising, do a bit of sales, all that kind of stuff. We're in a bit of a different world right now, so now I'm no longer visiting. I was visiting one or two stores, but I'm primarily doing a lot of things like online audits of websites. I'm generating content for our social spaces like Workplace and so on, and also doing remote training sessions as well, whether it's phoning people up or training them through Teams and that kind of thing. But I've been in the team for, about 2.5 years doing this. But prior to this specific role, I have done other stuff with Microsoft before. So I was an active seller on that team for a little while prior to being a TM. And I did work on the short-lived mixed reality campaign as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
RIP. Mixed reality. Well, at least the campaign anyway. They're obviously still about, but
we won't get on to RIP moments. Nigel's still touchy about the band being RIP'd. So
let's move on from there.
Let's move on.
So Joe will probably ask you this next question. We do have a comment in the comments.
I'll put it up. We do.
Yeah, a couple of comments.
Hey, Dave.
Hi, Dave. So Dave Atkins says, also favourite Microsoft tech product is my Baby Zune HD. Nothing will ever come close in terms of technical innovation with that gorgeous OLED screen, HD radio, and Metro UI interface.
God, it's talking of short-lived products. The Microsoft Zune, wow, that's a blast from the past.
That is an amazing product, though.
Yeah, it was incredible.
I'm going to say something on this, right? We have had so many little diamonds that just weren't given enough time. And I genuinely believe that. I think if we'd invested a little bit longer in band, it would be exact. Because again, I keep bringing it up. I have a Fitbit Charge 4. It's the same. It's 5 years later, and it's the same as it was that I had from the band. Should have stuck with that. That was going to be big. Zune is another one. There have been some Connect.
I think what it does, though, I think it inspires other companies to. It gives people ideas. And I think the same around, when Surface was launched, the whole idea was to innovate and give other companies a different kind of feel and look to how we go about doing things. And I think that's the same with all the technology that we work around. It's moving sand all the time. It's evolving, isn't it? Completely all the time.
Yeah, I suppose it's Microsoft have done that. They sort of did it with Zune. They did it with like phones and so on and so forth. Is that they came in later in the game because they were taking their time to really perfect the product before they put it out. The downside of that and the issue with that is that they're going into an already well-established market. Yeah. So it's that trade-off of, okay, do we just sort of slog through on this with a product that we know is really, really good and, hopefully we'll get some traction, or have we just been, overwhelmed, subsumed with, it's like there's so much, it's an oversaturated market. So it depends. It depends. Like mixed reality, obviously, because I was working on it before. The really remarkable thing about mixed reality is it was ultimately a better, more user-friendly product than what was already out there.
Yeah, definitely.
But it was an issue of it was a bit of a kind of tertiary product. Like it wasn't one that we were properly focusing on. We kind of threw it out, and it got good reviews and stuff like that. But it was already just a really a fervent market out there that it was just difficult. We really need to hammer it if we're going to break through. But it's one of the downsides almost of Microsoft being such a big, expansive business is that they can't just hammer on all cylinders on some smaller project in this end and that end, and because it can divert attention away. So there is unfortunately a few gems out there that have fallen by the wayside.
It's really good. It's a really good take of what I said, because different niches within the spectrum of technology will go, I love this, I want this to be here forever. And that's where I sit with band, and Nigel sits there with band. And but then the bigger sphere is maybe not so much in that space, so it's I think timing is a big piece with it as well.
Getting
the timing right, and then the market choice. There's a very good question that Dave Atkins has asked in chat. I'm going to pop this up because I think I know the answer to this.
Can I read it out again? I quite like reading out the comments.
Go for it.
Dave Atkins again. Another question is there a way to use my Xbox One Connect via my desktop PC as a webcam? Been using dreaded 720p Logitech one for a while now.
Great question. And the short answer is yes. Now, the long answer is I need to figure out the steps and send them to you, Dave. But a friend of the podcast and a longtime colleague of me and Nigel's, Ben Rudolph, I think on one of our early podcasts,
he did. He talked about it.
He talked about it. What Ben did was he used his Connect via some other software to his desktop PC to create a Windows Hello type login system, because Connect obviously uses biometrics as well. So when you were logging into your Xbox, you could log in with your face. So it's the same camera. So yes, Dave, there is a way, and let me find out and get you the details. And if you want to go back and listen to that podcast with Ben, it's one of the earlier ones we did. He definitely discusses it on that as well. So it's a really good, interesting one as well. I think you
episode number 6, actually.
There you go, episode 6, Dave. I think the stuff that's talked about.
It's that, news to me.
Yeah, because we talk about MS News on that as well.
I was going to say, I know I'm the worst person to ask about webcams, because I got myself a really, really cheap webcam when first lockdown hit, just like some wee £30 thing off of Amazon from some Chinese company that I've never heard of in my life. And when a friend of mine was asking, I'm looking for a cheap webcam, you got any recommendations? I posted him the Amazon thing, and he went, that company got done for like sifting through people's private thing. And I'm like, oh god, I just brought like a hardware phishing device and plugged it in my computer, basically. So yeah, I'm the worst person to ask for that kind of thing.
That's all right. Before we move on, just a big hello to this guy, Igor Kerno. Igor is a former TM of ours in Ireland, and also a recruit of mine when I looked after the Irish field team, and a good guy, genuine all-around good guy. So how you doing, Igor?
Hi, Igor.
And Dave says, thanks, man. Always rely on my evangelist brothers. That's what we're here for, mate. Here to help. So, Nigel, let's crack on.
Oh, we want to know what Euan's favourite tech is. I've been waiting for you for 5 minutes to ask the question.
Sorry, I was just really enjoying the conversation.
I know you were.
So, yeah, over your length of time in the field or within the Microsoft teams, what is your favourite piece of Microsoft tech?
Specifically Microsoft tech?
Yeah. For this bit, yes.
Oh, okay. I'm a big fan of Teams. Just all up, like that's maybe a bit of a boring answer considering the world we're living in right now. We're all living off of Teams, but I really, really like it. I think it's just really, really well put together, really well thought out system. So absolutely, I think Teams is probably the answer for me.
I think it's a really interesting question, really, really interesting response, even because if it's you suddenly realise, I mean, video conferencing before we had COVID was probably few and far between. Now, everywhere, everything you see on television is. I watched something on the NHS last night on the Free Hospital in London, and there's like 50 people on screen, within Teams having a call about the current crisis, and it's quite staggering how it's kind of pushed technology really, really quickly, and Teams seems to have kept up with that and done innovation really, really quickly. On one time you could only have 4 or 5 people on screen, and suddenly it's now I think the latest version you can actually for free get 300 people on a call. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the technology.
Well, if you do one of the live events, I believe it's 100,000 people that can join it as well, which is outrageous. But I'm even more boring than that, because it's not the video conferencing that I find so useful in Teams. It's all the like collaboration stuff on it. Which is it's.
You and I'm completely with you, because 3 years ago I started using Teams, but I was the only one using it in the team, so it was quite a lonely kind of experience.
Nigel, you're an early adapter in this team. Like, of a team of early adapters, you're an early adapter. You're the earliest adapter.
Or adopter, even.
Or adopter, sorry.
Yeah, adapter. I do adapter. I just want to say there's a call out to someone watching who is my old buddy, We started 11.5 years ago together, and before that we worked for another company together. So we've known each other for coming up for a long time. Oh my goodness!
Former contributor and also Microsoft commercial evangelist.
Indeed, Dale Brockhurst is in the house.
There is someone
and I have asked some for advice of many a time. So
indeed,
there is nobody who knows as much about things as he does.
Yeah,
and I say things is a broad umbrella for everything that he seems to know about. Because when he was looking after Windows here, nobody knew more about Windows than Dale. When he was looking after Microsoft 365, nobody knew more about it than Dale did. He is a sponge. Probably, I'm going to say this, as commercial evangelists go, for me, probably the best one in the world.
I'd agree. Yeah,
incredible. So, yeah,
we miss him.
Great guy.
We miss him in our day-to-day team.
I want to say something about Teams, because there's probably a podcast on this in itself. Teams, I have seen so many friends who are now using Teams at work, and I have a couple who are using Teams. They're also using Zoom. They're using third-party sharing cloud services, and you go, as much as company, if you're using Teams, you don't need anything else.
No.
You've got your chat function, call function, meetings, events, as Euan has said. You can create breakout rooms and events as well for conferences. You've got SharePoint built into that through Azure as standard with it. So it's an all-encompassing
There's so much
tool.
more than that, though, as well.
Way more.
There's whiteboards. There's polling you can do. You've got lots of apps. You can have your Adobe Creative Cloud in there and have link. It's just phenomenal.
Do you think how much money companies?
I was going to say, sorry. So one of the things that I preface this is I saw during the first lockdown I was doing a secondment as a BDM, a business development manager, specifically around sort of Microsoft Modern Workplace, which is during that time was almost exclusively all about Teams. So one of the most interesting things that I sort of found was I would occasionally do webinars to customers for the IT partners. For people that don't know, the overwhelming majority of Microsoft commercial stuff is sold through third-party vendors. It's not actually sold directly through Microsoft. It's maybe only about 10% of stuff sold directly from Microsoft. The rest is through these third-party ones. So I was assisting them by doing a Teams webinar for their customers. And probably the most amount of people that actually joined those webinars were people who already had Teams in their company because they were underutilizing it. So the number one issue was that people would just go, this is included with whatever Microsoft package I was getting, and they kind of just fall into it and they don't really look at all the kind of features that's in it. There's features inside Teams where you can use Power Apps like Power Automate and stuff like that, where you could basically process an entire sales interaction all within Teams. You can go from quoting something to a customer, sending them an invoice, processing that invoice, and then delivering the product all within Teams. The level of expansiveness on it is outrageous. And the number one issue that I think Microsoft were having during that period was just actually getting people to understand just how much you could do with it. It wasn't even necessarily getting new people onto it.
But think of the cost. Again, I go back to that example. The person I'm talking about works for a big company, a big multinational company, and they're paying a consumer Zoom license for all of their employees. They're paying for Teams. They're paying for this other third-party SharePoint. They're paying for all these different bits and pieces when they really don't need to do any of that. The cost saving, if you just contact your local Microsoft rep or whoever your company deals with and get them to train you on Teams, because it is, as Euan said, so underutilized by people, and companies are spending so much money on stuff they don't need to. So there's a massive piece of working smart here. Since we start using Teams full time, and especially in the last 12 months, I rarely get emails. The bulk of my communications is done through Teams now. So I either get a message or a file sent or a meeting put in. I live on Teams all day, every day. I literally never have to leave it. And from a productivity point of view as well, we just get more done. I'm not jumping between all apps. I haven't got 16, 17 different tabs open in a browser. I haven't got 14, 15 different things open on my desktop. So performance-wise, it's a no-brainer. So that's my bit.
I've got to call out a comment that you put on the screen earlier. Dale put up there, NHS England have 850,000 850,000 team meetings a week. And also, it's just come through that breakout rooms are now available in beta in Teams, which I'm actually currently looking at for one of our upcoming training. That was brilliant. I love the fact that we haven't
podcast on that.
Yeah, we have had a podcast about Teams because you remember.
We'll
do another one. Yeah. Shall we break across to?
Let's do that.
Another session.
Yes.
I'll do that again. Too many buttons.
Nailed it first time there, Nigel.
Almost. I can do it in edit.
The audio. The audio's going to sound perfect.
The audio's going to sound perfect.
Sort it in post. It'll be fine.
Exactly. I always sort everything in post. It's how life is. How life is constructed these days. So I want to go on to the JP's A to Z of Windows, because I think we are a little bit behind on the podcast. But if you want to go to my Instagram, you'll see that we're up to W already. Although I didn't remember my alphabet and I missed out W the other day. I couldn't believe it when I saw that I'd missed out W. Anyway, so this week's Windows key is Windows and P. So I'm sure that both of you two will already know what this does, and it is a way of changing which monitor or screen you project to. So Windows and P will scroll through your. If you have two monitors, you're a single monitor, or duplicate the screen on two monitors, or just one monitor, or actually extend the monitor. So working from home, I think we all probably do it. We have one lot of information on one screen, one lot of information on another screen. We have multiple split screens. It gets very confusing when you go, I'm just going to share my screen in Teams. And then which one is it? I don't know which one it is. And it's all very much click and see what happens, isn't it? And then you forget. Then you classic in Teams is forgetting to actually activate audio as well. So, but that's a new feature that's come in the last 6 months as well. The fact that you can incorporate your onboard audio. So the Windows button and P is this week's A to Z of Windows.
Do you want to know something terribly embarrassing? What my number one Windows and then a key usage is? Mine is the Windows key and then the full stop button, the emoji keyboard. I've been using that far too much recently, and it's pretty shameful. To be honest with you, I've been using far too many emojis.
It's something that on one of my devices it doesn't work for some reason. The current device I'm on does work, but one of the things I found, having gone through, and we got to thank John Pinnock, who's one of our big fans, for allowing us to use this, and I've used it in 2 places now. The one shortcut key that I really use more than any other is Windows and E, which is actually quite a useful. When you're using files a lot, Windows and E is really useful because it opens up the file explorer. Anyway, we're going to go on to the main topic, and I think I'm going to hand over to Jer to talk to Euan about some of the things that he may have already covered.
So, Euan, as this is your podcast this week,
don't know about that, but sure.
Let's start into what we want to talk about. So the main topic is business and retail, or consumer products, Microsoft consumer products, commercial products in a consumer space. So where do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, so it's more, there's a few things that I want to cover this, but the main thing is why to even cover it in the first place is probably one of the significant ones. So a bit of a peek behind the curtain for the folks listening. As a field team, we actually have no KPIs around business sales at all in retail, none at all. And I think that's KPIs or whatever they are, but I think avoiding that conversation can be a little bit of an issue. For example, so the best sort of case in point of why I think this needs to be something that we maybe look into and address is that just before the original lockdown happened, right, we had floods and floods and floods of customers coming in and just buying up any laptop they could get their hold on so they could work from home, right? Which is generally fine. What was happening is basically their company was saying, you need to get a laptop as long as it can work Microsoft Office on it. We don't care. Here's a couple £100, go do it. And now that's fine. You can get, 95% of laptops are going to very comfortably run multiple Microsoft Office apps. The downside is that we weren't asking any further questions about what the requirements were for these guys. So a lot of people, for example, when sales colleagues were going through the sales process, they would go, okay, here's a laptop. Do you need anything else? Do you need to say Microsoft Office? And then the customer would go, oh, no, my work's providing it. And then the colleague would just move on from that. I feel like there needed to be a couple of extra questions around that, because there's a potential for that customer to go home, open that device, and get into a world of hurt. The reason why is if you are connecting to a business account for your Office software, depending on what your company is actually giving out to you, a standard Windows laptop with standard Windows 10 Home on it is going to do nothing for you, and you're going to be tearing your hair out for hours and hours and hours. One of the big things that we do focus on as a fuel team is, yes, we do in-person sales ourselves, but one of the big things that we're really, really big on is making sure that the customer is getting as much information as possible that's relevant for them, so that they have a good experience. Because it's not just that, we want the customer to buy the laptop and then away they go, we don't care about them anymore. It's we want them to come back and buy their laptop again next time and stick with Windows instead of going to a competitor. So I think it's important to cover these kind of things in terms of what's actually going to be useful for them. So a couple of reasons why that would not work for them to go home and use a standard Windows laptop. Say if they were connecting to an enterprise level agreement that their company had, it would just wouldn't work at all, because they would need Windows 10 Pro in order to have things like Azure Active Directory, for example, for their company to even recognize that they were a person in the first place. So there's all kinds of other sort of tripping up points in that as well. But the sort of main things that I want to cover are like, I want to give basically people a Swiss Army knife of tools that will make sure that they don't sound like a complete idiot when it comes to commercial discussions, because
it's tricky. It is very. It's tricky.
Very tricky. Absolutely. I mean, the biggest. I mean, the biggest thing is people are kind of scared of commercial stuff because it sounds really, really complicated. And in truth, it is very, very complicated. But in a retail setting, there's very few things that you actually need to cover. One of the things that sort of will trip people up a lot when they're having commercial conversations with a customer is the customer is not necessarily the IT guy of their company, and 99% of the time they won't be. They'll just be some guy, or they'll be the owner of a company that has 5 people or something like that. And they won't really know exactly what they're needing, and they'll come in and they'll talk about certain things like, I've got an SQL database or all this kind of stuff, and they'll throw all this jargon at you, and none of it will be even remotely relevant to what the customer is in to buy there at all. They just don't know if it's relevant or not, and that can trip people up. So it's what I want to basically go over is how to cut through that kind of stuff and at least just make it a bit easier. Obviously, for example, a lot of the main retailer we visit is Dixon's Carphone. A large majority of the stores have some kind of business consultant in there that you can send the customer to, but it's not a particularly great sales experience to go, you're a business guy, and just flag them over into the business section and forget about them. You kind of want to sort of traverse that a little bit nicer.
Talk to him while you walk him across.
Instead of sort of quietly just push him over to the business section.
Do you know what? And you can do that. So to take this from a different angle, so for the retail pro guys, they'll get what we're talking about. But let's angle this conversation in a slightly different way. So if I'm a business customer who is sent into retail by my job to get a laptop, That's how I wanted to have this conversation. And everything we're going to talk about, if we take it from that perspective, because anyone who is watching this at different places or listening to this where we share it will be like, you've said a couple of things already, and I don't know what you mean. So before I even get to the point where
commercial.
I have to, correct. So if we look at this from point of view, let's take this stuff and kind of make it more relevant. So when you said this at the start, and I just wrote it down as a point, you want to buy a laptop that can connect to Azure Active Directory. What is an Azure Active Directory, and what does it do? And why does my laptop need to be connected to it? And then, even going back a step earlier than that, Windows 10 Home, Windows 10 Pro.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very fundamental difference between the two. So if you're buying a laptop native for business use that's going to connect to your company portal, you need a Pro device.
Yeah.
A home device forget about it. It's not for you. That's for watching Netflix and playing with the kids. That's that thing. So your Pro device first one. And then Azure. What does Azure Active Directory allow people to actually do?
So Azure Active Directory, to put it in kind of layman's terms, is it's basically the behind the scenes software in whatever sort of commercial setting that they've signed up to for Microsoft, whether it's a 365 business standard or whatever it is that they've signed up to. It's the software behind the scenes that basically allows the company to recognize that you are an employee of that company, and here is your rights as an employee to access this information, to access these servers, to access this SharePoint, so on and so forth. So it's an identity feature. I would say to sort of put this into a nice sort of easy to consume bubble, I would say the kind of three things that you should speak to a customer about that is in for a business sale. The three sort of key points would be Azure Active Directory would be one of them. Microsoft Exchange would be another one. Yep, and business licensing as well. Those are the three things. Now, so talked a little bit about Active Directory. I'll come back to that in a wee bit. I'll sort of do a top line. So Exchange is an interesting little feature because that's something that people have vaguely heard of.
You would see it.
Yeah, but
when
you don't
you're
know
logging in, it's like private email, school or work account, Exchange.
Yeah, and no one quite, like, a lot of people are like, I don't quite get what this is.
I'll try the first two. If that doesn't work, I'll try Exchange.
Yeah, exactly. So to put it in perspective is, as a customer, right? A customer would come in and they go, right, I need this business laptop for all my businessy things, and they'll say, oh, it needs to have Outlook on it. That's a common thing. They're going to say it needs to have Outlook on it because that customer is coming in and they are just clicking on the Outlook app and my business email is sitting right there. Great, fantastic. That's what Outlook does. That's not what Outlook does. Okay, Outlook is the front-facing user app, which could be used for business use, or it could be used for just your average consumer who's just, keeping their Gmail or their Hotmail accounts or their like BT Internet. Go back as far as you want. They could all be collated on that. The thing that actually allows you to access your business email, so your own business domain email, is Exchange. Exchange is the background architecture that lets that work. If you don't have Exchange, you don't have your business Outlook. I realize I'm doing quotation marks and something that will be in an audio medium further down the line. That's what it's a common feature with customers is they'll come in and they'll say a word or a name of something which they think means something that it doesn't. So a common one is, as a customer can say, oh, it needs to have Windows on it, and what they mean is it needs to have Microsoft Office on it. It needs to have Outlook on it. What they mean is it needs to have Exchange, so I can have my business emails on it. Because that's a thing that will often trip people up if they are looking at like a SKU chooser of, there's Microsoft 365 Personal, and then Family, and then Business Standard. And Personal and Family are like half the price of Business Standard, but they have Outlook on it. So surely I could just get that and away I go. But it doesn't have that background architecture of Exchange on it. So that's sort of the key thing. The last thing I mentioned is, you go. Yeah.
I was going to say just to Dale's point that he's put down before. I was going to come in with a very bad analogy, saying that your Azure Active Directory is your sales broker when you're buying a house. So you can't buy the other person's house without that person in the middle. So you need that. And Dale's got a better one, a much cleaner one. Azure Active Directory is your company doorman, and if your name is not on the list, you're not coming in.
Yeah, and Azure Active Directory is actually just a massive feature of Microsoft commercial for security purposes and all sorts. Like it covers everything from access to say a company SharePoint all the way to like provisioning services for like your company phone or your company laptop, and it goes into a thousand different things. But yeah, the key point is if the customer is coming in, they're going, oh, my company provides Office. You in order for them to access that company Office, they may need Azure Active Directory, which is what's going to do it. But as I said, the last sort of feature is business licensing. So for little Johnny, the painter, who just has his own business by himself, this isn't maybe the biggest issue in the world for him. But if you've got a company that's got 5, 10, 15 employees, this suddenly becomes a really, really big deal. So business licensing is basically the legal protection for being able to use this software for business purposes. Now, that's not just being able to install it and use it. It's also things like being able to store people's data on your company files. So your 365 business premium or business standard account will have a OneDrive on it. It'll have a SharePoint on it, all this kind of stuff. If you're storing customer data on that, there needs to be certain protections in place. Otherwise, you might get a data leak, and then you'll get a big old fat GDPR fine slapped right on you, and then your company looks very, very bad. So that's the extra layers of protection that come in behind that, which keeps you on the straight and narrow and keeps your company and your customers protected. It's all very well and good saying, oh, I'm not too worried about whether or not I may or may not get a fine, but I don't think your customers will be particularly happy if their data gets pulled off from your company. There may be some issues in whether or not you can even continue as a company because they may not trust you anymore. So that's the sort of top line stuff, is those 3 key points, I would say. Absolutely Azure Active Directory for letting you even use your company's Office programs. Exchange for even letting you use your company's business email. And then your business licensing for making sure that all your documentation is safe and above board, and ultimately it keeps you safe and your customers as well. So those are sort of the 3 key points. And as I said, you don't really need to go into a lot of detail about them. I'm going into a little bit more detail here to make you aware of what the heck they mean. But you can, in pretty layman's terms, say to a customer, oh, you're connecting to your company email, your company's got 20 people in it. They probably have some kind of sort of a commercial agreement in order to get this your Microsoft Office programs. You're going to need Azure Active Directory, otherwise it's not going to connect.
It's interesting actually, because although it's from a perspective of you as a retail professional talking to another retail professional, some of the things that are bringing up in this conversation today are good to know for customers or business customers going in and being aware of the sort of things that they may or may not be asking. So
absolutely,
I think it does. It just kind of works both ways, really.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing to add is I mentioned that the commercial world is big and scary and complicated and all this kind of stuff. Dale's been working at it for years. I dipped my toe into it for a secondment, and I've done some further things off the back of it as well. But you don't need to go through and learn every single thing about it. The customers that are coming in to your average high street retailer to pick up a laptop for their business are not like big multinational corporations or this kind of stuff. It's small to medium-sized businesses. Medium often won't even deal with it at all. It's overwhelmingly small businesses, maybe 5 to a maximum of 25 employees. So all these kind of higher end stuff, enterprise stuff, all this kind of thing, it's just not even going to come anywhere near the conversation.
Yeah.
So it's all about keeping it grounded and on a level that not only is it easy for you to understand yourself, but is easy for you to convey to the customer. Because ultimately, as I mentioned before, the customer that's coming in isn't the IT consultant for that that business. It's poor Jimmy down in the office who got sent out to pick up the coffee and a new laptop or something. So he doesn't know what he's doing. So you just need to bring it into a kind of
a language that people understand.
That's what I was going to say.
Exactly.
That will bring us on to probably our next points. But the key thing with this is if you're a retail professional in a store and a customer comes in to buy a device for work, you've got to ask them about that. You've got to say, is it a company email you're looking for minimum? That question alone will open up doors. Because if they say it's, Johnny's Bricklayers at outlook.com, you don't, no, that's not it. You're okay. You're fine. Go with the basic stuff. But if it's, Johnny at davesbricklayers.com, that's a different conversation because that's a different email. It's an Outlook, but it's an Exchange. So that's a different conversation. So you need to know that if you're a consumer walking into these places, make it the person you're selling to aware that you need this to go on a company portal.
Sure, you've got quite good at this. You've been researching.
Dale will attest this. I flittered briefly with commercial and then decided it wasn't for me. It wasn't. I got the server and I went, this isn't for me.
Server is, Dale can attest this. I'm currently looking at server. It's a boring and complicated world.
Server is very important. However, there aren't enough hours in the month to get through server. So
although we were going to talk about the data centers in the underwater.
We are still going to talk about underwater data centers because
which obviously have servers in there.
They do, but it's an interesting topic. Where server on its own and cores and processors, not so much. No. But if you're in that, if you're in that sphere, very important.
If you add
flashbacks I'm getting flashbacks of doing get licensing ready on repeat. Oh, God.
I'll tell you a story. I was at a training event with Dale a couple of years ago. And I have a very naturally inquisitive brain. I need to know the connections between things. Like, my brain doesn't work in a straight line. It goes this way. It's the long way around the houses. Anyone who's ever heard me tell a story will attest to the fact that I rarely get to the point quickly. So my brain operates exactly the same way in learning. So when you were going through it, I was like, I've got a question. I was annoying the presenter and I was genuinely interested in it. But it got to the point where he said,
anybody, Joe.
It got to the point where he said to me, you have a naturally inquisitive brain. But he said it as if it was an insult. All right. It was a tone to it. I went, you didn't mean that in a nice way, did you? And I was like, I walked out and I talked to our old boss, Andy, and Andy was like, well, and I went, that's not for me. It would take me too long to get my head around it. And I have too many questions to just go, this is what you say, go say this. I'm like, no, this is what you say. I need to know why I say that because then this makes more, it doesn't matter. But the point being that there's a lot of complicated stuff behind as you said earlier, on the curtain of commercial, but you don't always need to know that if you're frontline. So it's about getting to that point. We'll move on to just in the interest of time. So we've kind of covered off the do's and don'ts. Are you happy to move on with the current do's and don'ts? Or are there any other do's and don'ts you think people should be aware of?
Not in particular. I should probably highlight. So I mentioned these three things. Azure Active Directory isn't just like some amorphous thing. It's part of Windows 10 Pro. And in a retail space, overwhelming majority of your devices are going to be Windows 10 Home. It's not an add-on that you can do in store. The customer can upgrade to Windows 10 Pro at home, and it's, I believe, off the top of my head, through the Microsoft Store, it's about 120 quid in order to do it. It's more about making them aware that you're going to need to upgrade to Windows 10 Pro. So that might affect their buying choices in terms of budget wise. So that's the main reason to sort of bring that up. In terms of Exchange, as I sort of briefly touched on before, it's in the business licenses of Microsoft Office or Microsoft 365. In particular, Microsoft 365 Business Standard, which I should point out, we do have listeners from all over the place, but Dixon's Carphone is the only high street retailer that you can walk into and buy a card with Microsoft 365 Business Standard on it. It's the only one that will do it. You can't do the same in John Lewis. You can't do the same in wherever else you're going. So they have a bit of an advantage. So this is a little bit of a shout out to the Dixon's Carphone guys. Is take a little look at it. The card sitting there, it's got a lot of information on it to just give you. I mean, there's a billion different things over and above Exchange that you could talk to the customer about. All kinds of highlight things about like there's Mile IQ is like an app that lets you through GPS clock up your business miles by keeping your phone in your pocket and keep track of it. There's thousands of different amazing things like that that's inbuilt on it. So absolutely.
This man has mentioned that to me several times with my mileage to help me.
It's awesome.
It's incredible, and there's a 1,000 other things within it. You get things like SharePoint on it as well, which is huge in terms of sort of cohesion across a company. So there's 1,000 different things that I could go on for hours and hours and hours about. But the key thing is, if you're in Currys, for example, you can sit and have a little look at that. Other retailers, in terms of physical in-store stuff, they're only going to have home and business, but home and business will still have Exchange in the background of Outlook for it. So it's important to just be aware of that, and then you can inform the customer off the back of that.
Okay, so we kind of talked about that. We've talked about some of the key business products that they have to have knowledge about as well. Moving on from that, what is the next thing that you want to talk about when it comes to this?
So I've touched on a sort of few different things about it. The key one being COVID is how this has all changed. We've seen, for example, as I mentioned before, floods of people coming in to just pick up a cheap laptop and then not realizing that there might be a couple extra steps off the back of it. When I was in my commercial secondment, I was focused predominantly on selling these solutions, predominantly on things like Teams and stuff like that as well. And a lot of it was about remote working and remote collaboration, Windows Virtual Desktop, all that kind of stuff. But there was a sort of sneaky monster on the sidelines of it as well, which was security. Because there was all very well and good going, we've now got all these people working from home, but they're maybe using personal devices instead of work devices, which has got all kinds of security issues on the wide open as well. Absolutely wide open. So that's where things like additional features within Windows 10 Pro, as an example, really sort of step in. So there's all kinds of security features that just make it over and above Windows 10 Home by quite a large margin. Previously in the field team, and it's something I can hopefully, I'm hoping to change in terms of our teaching for Windows 10 Pro. We go, it's got BitLocker, it's great, and then we move on, kind of thing. We don't really.
What is it? Why do you need it?
Yeah, exactly. So BitLocker, for those that don't know, it's an encryption password that you can add on to any hard drive or storage media on that device. So you can do it on the internal hard drive, and you can also do it for USB sticks or SD cards that you plug into it as well, which is absolutely magic.
It's a reinforced brick wall on your device. Yeah, because I have been in a situation where I have forgotten my BitLocker on an older device that I forgot had BitLocker on it, and when I tried to get into it and get around it, you cannot get around it. Your device is, quote the IT person within Microsoft who I spoke to, I'm going, you have an expensive steel brick now. He can't get into it. I can't get into it. Nobody's getting into that device. So if you're in a business and your devices happen to get stolen or left behind in a coffee shop or on the tube or on a train or wherever, you're not getting past BitLocker. You're just not ever getting past that. And it's just going to lock the device down. So you're safe with that. It's an extra layer, and it's at the very, very start, before you even get into your passwords and everything, it's get your BitLocker key first.
I've just noticed Dale swiping in with my next talking point, actually, still in my thunder. So Windows 10 not having Hyper-V, Windows 10 Home not having that. So that's a big thing for virtualized security features, as he's mentioned. It's also just a big thing in terms of running virtual machines. So one of the things I've been doing behind the scenes out with the field team is I've been doing a lot of Microsoft accreditation courses, and I've got one of the ones that Dale got actually for the Microsoft 365 fundamental certificate. So I've got that, and I'm currently working on my Azure one for cloud services. Now, when it comes to Azure, you can, on any computer you feel like, doesn't matter what it is, you can go in and you can just connect to a virtual machine in Azure. You can do that at any point. But a common thing with a lot of companies, particularly smaller companies, is they won't necessarily use a subscription cloud service like Azure. They will use an on-premises cloud system, their own private cloud. So they'll be using their own onboard server rack, and they'll create their own private cloud within that anyone can sit and join into that. You have to have Hyper-V in order to connect to that. It is not possible to connect to it in any other way. It's a really, really common thing for smaller and medium-sized companies. So it's a tertiary thing to sort of tap onto. If a customer comes in with a lot of conversations around virtual machines and all this kind of stuff, it's not a common one all up, but occasionally it can throw you a curveball and you go, oh God, I've no idea. The only thing to really ask is, for your cloud computing, do you pay a subscription or is it all done in-house? If it's done in-house, they need Hyper-V. If it's a subscription, they're fine whatever the hell they use. It doesn't make a difference. So that was the only sort of additional things to add on to it. It's not a primary thing. It doesn't happen very often, but occasionally it will come in, and Windows 10 Pro is going to tick that box for them. You'll tend to find, as I mentioned before, the overwhelming majority of customers that you speak to are going to be small businesses, or maybe at a push some medium-sized businesses. As I said, maybe up to 25 people or something in it. There is going to be very, very little true curveballs that really come your way. As I mentioned before, you'll maybe get a lot of customers who are coming in and their IT guy said something off the cuff. He wasn't even saying it to them. He was maybe saying it to the other IT guy or something that this person overheard, and they've got it in their head. They're going to fixate on this thing that they've never heard of. They're going to come and say, "Oh, I need to connect to Azure Cosmos or something." It's like, no, that's not a thing. It's not a thing that you would do on a 20-person company. That just doesn't happen. But you don't need to know that. So I know a bit about it because I've done all this background stuff. But you do not need to know any of that kind of stuff. You just need to cut down, separate the wheat from the chaff, cut down to, do they need Azure Active Directory? Do they need Microsoft Exchange? Do they need business licensing? And maybe at a push, do they need Hyper-V in order to connect to a private cloud service? Other than that, you don't need to know a damn thing about anything else they're talking about. And as I mentioned before, a lot of retailers are going to have their own business consultants within it who will be able to talk us through a lot of this kind of stuff. This is really just about, if you tick these kind of boxes, you know roughly the kind of stuff to recommend them, and you can make it an easy pass over to it, and you can make things just a little bit better. It adds into that thing as well of, the more knowledgeable you are, even if it's on something really, really simple, the customer is just generally going to trust you more because they know that you're not, making it up as you go along, kind of thing.
People buy from confident people.
Exactly. And if you are showing that kind of confidence with, say it's an area where the customer has no idea what they're doing because they've just been sent in by some IT guy to get something and they didn't really know what he was saying. If you can project a little bit of confidence around that, that customer is not only going to trust you, they're more likely going to buy more from you because they know that you know what you're talking about.
It's the connection piece, isn't it?
Exactly, it all ties in, and as I said, even as a field team, we aren't targeted on business sales, but some of these smaller end things straddle the line between, oh, will that be a business sale? Will it not be a business sale? But having that kind of a little bit of knowledge just to tide you by gives you that much more credibility, and it works much more in your favor than stop right there. I'm not the business guy. I don't know a damn thing about it. I'll just push you over there because
ask some basic questions.
Yeah, it's not an amazing situation for the customer to sort of be passed around for multiple people and none of them are knowing what it is you need, kind of thing. So
well, it's an interesting topic. It has layered. It has a lot of complicated elements to it and a lot of simple elements to it, depending on the level that you're at. So knowing your level is important when it comes to that. We could probably talk about this all day. It's really interesting. And I have to say, from somebody who has sat through commercial training sessions, I found this a lot more interesting. So thank you for that.
Well, I'd like to say that's not hard. Commercial training sessions are not the most interesting thing in the world. So.
But I found this one more interesting, put it that way. There is one thing before we move on, because we are running out of time, before we move on with the podcast, because we're going to clash with Expert Zone Live in a few minutes. There's something that I see an awful lot of with people that I know who have small retail outlets, have a couple of stores, or you will see an awful lot of at-home PCs and laptops in these shops that they use to track their sales figures and their data and their cash flow and all this kind of stuff. And they're all Windows 10 home and they're all using Open Office because it's, again, to your point, it's the cheaper option. I'll just go with that. Sure, it has Outlook, it has Excel, it's all the same. If you're running a small business and you are not protecting your devices and using official licenses and official software and the proper stuff on your laptop, your business is wide open to attack. And it might not seem like a big deal, but your data and your customers' data is vitally important. If you have somebody's name on an Excel spreadsheet with an address and a phone number, and that gets out because you're using an at-home device with an at-home license, it was preventable. And it wasn't that much more expensive to keep that safe. So that's...
Even on a personal... within the last 3 weeks, a friend of mine, the software company he works for, had a data breach through a phishing email. Exactly that situation. Customer data is gone. Yeah. There's maybe only 8 people in that building, and all of a sudden I'm getting texts from my friends saying, "What was the name of that security thing that you mentioned before? Was it what?" And
we had this conversation.
It's too late. It's already the stuff's already gone. You're already in the mess.
We've had this conversation about OneDrive, Nigel. How many times have we had it where people are kind of going, "Oh, my phone's broken and I've lost everything. Can I get it back?" It's like, no. I was like, "What's that thing you mentioned before?" OneDrive. Just get OneDrive. Like the cost of reacting to a security breach is far higher than the cost of preventing a security breach. So it's.
I'm sorry, just a very last thing to tag on. I promise it's the last thing because I know we're running over. So Microsoft 365, the personal, the like non-commercial versions now give you 24/7 support. The commercial versions also give you 24/7 support, but it's commercial support. If you phone up the 24/7 support for the non-commercial versions, you're going to get someone who doesn't know a lot about the issue that you're facing. Yeah. But if you have the commercial version, they're going to have that support in place for you. So it's an extra layer on top of it. You're getting commercial support, not just the average consumer support. But that's it. I promise that's the last thing I'm going to tell you.
All useful, Euan. Nigel, let us move on to the next bit.
Automatic crowbar reinvention.
I think we're going to miss this bit out. Dangerous
cow refund.
Let's stick it in quick.
Instead.
Delegates crossing railways.
Okay, so we normally do this part of the book. I'm not going to do this today.
Okay.
I'm going to say that for next time.
It's important to get the jingle in, though.
Although, yeah, I have to get the jingle in. Although it was a really good choice. I'm tempted to do it.
Let's see how we go. Let's do our 3-letter acronym first.
So the last 3-letter acronym that we had, because we do this every week, and we use the Microsoft abbreviation dictionary, or MAD for those that are watching it online currently live. It's the MAD dictionary. The last letter that we had to try and guess, or the audience had to try and guess, was ESD. So ESD stood for, Joe, you know this one, don't you?
I don't.
Yes, you do.
ESD as a standard device, something standard devices.
Okay, so it's something that is probably we do it all the time. It stands for electronic software distribution, the ability to download software over the internet, ESD. So that was
no.
Okay, so what we do, Euan, is we get our guests to pick a number between 1 and 83. Or 83, because that's how many pages of 3-letter acronyms are in the book, and then you have one guess each as to what your. Go on.
Before you do this, for anyone watching this for the first time or listening to this for the first time, Microsoft has so many 3-letter acronyms that we have a dictionary to explain them.
There's an app you can get, the Windows 10 app. I actually use that religiously.
3 pages of small font text. It's massive, and we use a lot of them, and I don't know half of them.
We had a question come into our WhatsApp group the other day. Other messaging apps are available, and I managed to answer all 3 using the MAD dictionary. So, you a number between 1 and 83, please.
72.
72.
I might actually. No, I'm not
72. Okay.
Unless it pays off.
Oh God.
Okay, you should
terrible at these as well.
Okay, you should know this one, everyone. Especially you, and you've been talking about
that's commercial.
Some of the business stuff today. So, and it used to be a make of canned fruit. For those that go back that far, you'll know what I mean. What?
Go on.
SPD, Sierra Papa Delta.
Nope, I don't. That was something else.
SPD.
Sierra Papa Delta.
Software population distribution. I don't know. I'm just saying adjectives. I don't know. I actually don't know.
Be a soft fruit tin.
Soft fruit. No, there was a make of fruit called SPD. Did you not know that?
I thought it was luster. When you said luster, it's pear halves, isn't it? We're going for pear halves here. Pineapple slices. That's what we're going for. I have no idea. No idea.
You sure? You're not going to guess one?
Server.
No, wrong.
There, I'm there we go.
Neither of you have got any this week. It's a bit disappointing.
I never get them.
It stands for SharePoint Designer, an HTML editor to allow the design and customization of SharePoint websites. See also Microsoft Expression Web. There we go, dead easy.
So we class SharePoint as one word.
That's what I was going to say. I think that's sneaky. I think it's
PowerPoint being 2 words. It's one word.
If you look at the spelling of SharePoint, a lot of
P.
Is an S and a P in there. Applies to a lot of Microsoft products. Okay, so Joe, pick a number between 1 and 83 for me. This is for the audience to guess and write in or answer now.
My old squad number 9.
Number 9.
Better know this one.
I thought you were centre half, number 6.
No, I finished centre half. 5, actually.
Hang upside down the goals. Number 6. I haven't got a number. Number 6. Okay, so this is for This is for the audience.
number 9, not 6. Number
6. Yeah, sorry, number 9. 6 is my lucky number.
Holding the book upside down.
I should just go, what number do you want, Jerry? And he went, no, I prefer 6. I'm going for 6 instead.
Sorry, I do have my own way about things. Right, this is fairly straightforward, I think. It's CAB, Charlie Alpha Bravo, CAB. That's for the audience. Write in to intheloop@outlook.com. Would be fantastic to get a response from you.
Is it cavalry attacking barracks?
No, you can't have any of them.
Is it cyclists and bicycles?
That's the end of the segment. That's a good way of keeping you quiet. Right, okay. So, Jer, how does everyone get hold of us?
Yeah, if you are watching the podcast or listening to the podcast and you like what you see or you like the other content we create, if you are on YouTube, you can get hold of us on All Things Microsoft. If you are on Twitch, you can get us on Expert Zone UKI. And if you are on Facebook, in whatever country you're in, you can get us on Expert Zone on your relevant country Facebook pages. Also, if you want to get in touch with us, it's in the loop podcast at outlook.com. And if you want to recommend a topic or segment, or if you want to let us know your favorite piece of tech, pop into that email and we will read it out on the next episode.
Fandabidozy. So we're not going to do.
It's Timsy's top 10.
We have 3 minutes before the next podcast starts to go live.
Oh, okay, really? Wow, there's a queue.
There's a queue today. There's a queue.
So I'll close the show then. And
before you do that, just to let everyone know, on Expert Zone campaigns running right now, the 2020 accreditations are still live, so you can get them on Xbox, Windows Modern Workplace, and Microsoft 365. And there is also a PCA or PC accessory campaign running that Hannah has designed that contains some really good videos on the Bluetooth mouse, the ergonomic keyboard, and the USB-C adapter. So they're handy as well. They're all on Expert Zone.
They are very good videos.
Very good. She did a great job.
Yeah.
Cool.
Brilliant. Okay.
I'm all done. That's me.
Euan, thank you very much for joining us today on the podcast.
It's all good. It's good fun.
Don't forget to listen to it when it goes live on Friday. And
so I wasn't laughing at that. I was laughing at the comment.
It's a great comment. Dave Atkins loved Nigel's singing voice. It's outstanding.
I wish it was mine.
Adam.
It's Adam. Yeah, it's very good. I do have a singing voice though, and so does. I'm not sure whether Euan does, but I know we have a common interest, which I was hoping to talk about today, but we'll save it for another time.
I think we're going to invite Euan back to talk more about teams in more detail.
Yeah,
I'd be up for that.
We'll get Dale on as well.
Yeah, why not? There's a good two for it to get on. I mean, get some screen share and go on for anyone.
Just leave them to get on with it. The two of them.
Or you just kick back, walk off screen. Yeah.
Brilliant. Anyway, Euan, thanks for joining us. I'm going to play us out with our normal team. Thank you everyone for listening and tuning in. When you get to hear it on Friday or whenever date you do it. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.